Take the next step to brand dominance with an investment of only 10 minutes.
Only 10 minutes.
No matter where you are in the world or what you're doing, 10. This is your next step to a better business and a better brand. Your knowledge and experiences to make your brand the best it can be. It's the 10-minute multitask. And here he is, your friend, your host, and the guy you probably just swiped left on. Andrew Young.
All right, welcome to the 10-Minute Multitask. We have a very, very special guest with us all the way from West Hollywood, Los Angeles. He already told me that it's 80 degrees and sunny, not a cloud in sight, so it's different from, well, actually pretty similar to Fargo, Uri. But please welcome to the 10-Minute Multitask, Uri Gal-Ed, who is a great friend of mine. Just to quickly go through some of his credentials that I think will build the stage for why Uri is talking to us today. Uri is currently a freelance director living in Los Angeles and West Hollywood. Before that, he was working in New York City at Fox News as one of their staff directors. He went through 2 election cycles. He's also been an associate director for Good Morning America. He's directed Kennedy. He's worked with a number of different people, folks, and this is really an extraordinary time to have him on because we are going to be talking about how you can speak in sound bites. And why that's important to you as a business owner, why that's important to you as somebody representing your brand, or why that's important to you, as somebody who's going to, appear in a newspaper or a television program. So Uri, thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Now, first of all, Uri, we heard about your experiences. What is a soundbite and why is it important, or why is it an important topic right now?
Well, a soundbite is an idea that a guest on a TV or a radio show, or even in the newspaper, in a print version, we'll call it a quote. It's an idea that you can convey in a very short amount of time with very few words, or the fewer the better, but still have a beginning, middle, and end. So your audience gets to know your point of view, how you feel about something, or something they didn't know before.
So Uri, I really want to give you this time to talk because we were talking previously, and I was listening to every word and really just interested. But you have experience as a director who is observing producers all the time on different national television programs, and you've formed these ways to coach people through sound bites, and you've observed what a bad sound bite sounds like. So do you want to talk about a good soundbite versus a bad soundbite and your experiences, in the studio?
Sure. I think that the most important thing for you as a guest on any kind of show or an interview is to know, going into it, to know, number one, what would you like to say? What are the ideas that you would like to convey? What is your exact specific point of view? And how do you want the audience to perceive you once you're done? Basically, when you start a sentence in an interview, you really need to know the full arc of your statement and where you're going to end up. So you're not like long-winded and continuous, but rather specific. Use the fewer words possible and get to the point as fast as you can.
Great. And so you're going through this interview, you're in a segment. I mean, one thing that I was really interested in is you were talking about, the typical segment these days, if we're talking about the television platform, is between 3.5 and 4 minutes. That's not very long. And once you involve everything, how long do you really have to answer? How long should people practice their answers or build their answers or be aware of?
Well, think about it that way. A typical segment, like you said, is between 3.5 to, let's say, 4.5 minutes. And, let's go with the best case scenario that you're the only guest. The introduction to the segment, just like we started today, I kind of, used my internal clock here, and you talked for about a minute. So in a 4-minute segment, and you were very quick, you didn't waste any time. You went straight to the point. It still took you a minute. That leaves us with 3 minutes for a typical segment. Let's say you want to get, the host will try to get at least like 4 questions in. That leaves you with an average of 20 seconds per answer. That's all you have. So when you kind of work with your people before the interview or think about what you would like to say, it's a very good practice to kind of time yourself to that limit of 20 seconds. Another benefit of staying within the 20-second limit is that if you say something that's breaking news or new or interesting or something that you want people to be able to quote you and play you a number of times after the interview was, let's say, live or recorded, but you want to be featured again. Under 20 seconds is something people can use later. If you talk for 20 seconds and type it up, you'll see that it's kind of an average quote for the newspaper. So that 20-second rule is a very good thing to keep in mind, both for media and for print.
Right. I really like how you talked about if you want to be replayed. You worked in television for a number of years. You're still in television. I worked in television. And I think one more thing to talk about here is if you want to be rebooked. I think producers, even local newspapers, even local news stations, they love interviewing people who are really good at being interviewed. I mean, correct?
It's people who are who seem excited, who are engaging, who have something that will keep the eyes on the TV. If you're a business owner, or if you're a CEO, or if you're anybody who's in the in that area, say something that's interesting to consumer. Say something that TV station will be able to use in different ways. At the same time, while they're using it for their own benefits of like breaking news, you're using it to sell yourself because you had something to say about yourself or about your policies or about your business. So that's always good. You can also do translate the same thing into person on the street, what we call in TV the MOS,
right.
Men on street, also women. You were a witness to an accident, or you were passing down the street and somebody asked you about your views about something. If you kind of plan your sentence for 10 seconds or less, you have more chance of being featured. Because if the whole news package is a minute and a half, they're not going to have somebody talk for 20 or 30 seconds. That's 40% of their story.
So I liked when we were talking before, you had talked about your first job and your role there. I'll let you highlight that. But you gave me 2 rules, essentially, that somebody can follow, when they're thinking about, how to speak properly when it comes to sound bites. Do you want to go over, those 2 rules just so we have those laid out?
So my first professional job out of college in television was a soundbite producer at Bloomberg Television. And my job was to take every single interview that aired on the network, find 2, sometimes 3 if it was of a famous CEO or somebody very important in the business world, find the 2 best sound bites, meaning the 2 best moments in that interview, and cut them, edit them into a soundbite that other shows could use later in the day or the week. 2 rules apply to that. 1, it had to be under 20 seconds. If it was 21 seconds, we could not use it. So 20 seconds or less. And it had to have a very clear beginning, middle, and end. And that's really the essence of a good soundbite. So when you play it independently outside of the interview, where the audience usually doesn't hear the questions or what came before or what came after, it should be independently clear what is going on.
Right.
So beginning, middle, end, under 20 seconds.
That's
complete
great.
idea.
Amazing. We're coming up on 8.5 minutes, and so I want to talk about 2 more things. The first question, just out of interest, do you have in all of your years of television, do you have a favorite moment or a favorite person that you think speak well? I think people listening right now are thinking, oh yeah, I'd like to practice, speaking in sound bites. Who can they listen to? Who do you like to listen to? Who have you really enjoyed?
I can think of example we loved. We had a reoccurring guest at Fox. I shouldn't mention the name, but he used to just give you a yes or no answers, which left a lot of hosts very confused. He would get like a 30-second long-winded question and then go, yep.
Yes.
So that's not a good example. Somebody from the news right now is actually my congressman, Adam Schiff from California, who's the ranking member on the Intelligence Committee in the House. And he's extremely good in giving sound bites. And I actually had this conversation. I went to a lunch at the Directors Guild a couple of weeks ago, and he was the guest, since a lot of his constituents is from here.
Right.
And I mentioned that to him, that I love his soundbite ability, and he actually got a kick out of that. So he's like a good example if you talk about politics. And he's somebody who actually is being played on and on and on every time he's interviewed, because he gives very good sound bites.
So your internal clock is probably telling you that we've hit 10 minutes. And Uri, I think that we would be remiss not to have you as a guest again. I think that we could talk about so many different things. And so if you're available and up for it, we'd love to have you on the 10-minute multitask again. But for now, as a promise to our listeners, we have to close. But thank you for coming, and we're going to talk to you soon.
My pleasure. Thank you.